I was just taken by these bikes because I know there's a lot of bicycle enthusiasts in Richmond. One of the things they have behind where you see all the bikes parked, there's a city bike station. I don't know if you've heard of this. Some people have said we need to put that here. It's this mechanism where you have stations where there are bikes locked up, and if you register, you can get the code to unlock. You can take a bike and use it for an hour for free as long as you turn it into another station. And anyway, it's great. So we saw that in San Sebastian. And here you can see our group at lunch. Lunch was always kind of a big deal. It was the main meal of the day. And with these long days of seminars and visits, we usually have lunch around 1 o'clock. And food was served by one of the Mondragon Cooperatives that does a food service. And interesting thing was, at the end of the week, a few of the people in the group said, well, gee, we should all get together and chip in for a tip for the women that served us our lunch every day. But then we were told, no, that would be completely inappropriate. That they don't want and they wouldn't take a tip. They are owners of their business. They take pride in their work. They pay themselves well, and they would not accept a tip. So we took that to heart. But in any event, lunches lasted about 2 hours, and it was actually very important because this was a time when we could network with each other. The group consisted of people from all over the U.S. There were even a couple from Korea. And that's a really important piece as we transition to our discussion tonight about how are we going to take what we learned and apply it here at home. So there were a lot of people on the trip who are working in worker cooperatives and in other areas. Just as an example, the woman kind of in the middle with the dark hair and the glasses is Karen Ranucci, and she's the chairman of the board of Democracy Now!, which is the news program with Amy Goodman. So she's very interested in making sure this has media accessibility. And then the next slide, here's another lunch scene. Lunch, by the way, and some classes were held in this beautiful, really old estate. It was a former estate, but it's turned into a training center located outside of town. The couple on the right are from Sonora, and they are planning to start a community-supported agriculture cooperative and a community kitchen where people in the area can come and have a commercial kitchen and make different prepared foods that they can sell locally. The woman who's sort of in the middle, a little bit to the left with a dark shirt with short sleeves, Dana will recognize her probably. That's Mariela Cedeno, who's from Oakland's Mandela Foods Co-op, and we got to know her quite well, and are planning to follow up with her and Dana, with anybody in Richmond who's interested, and several others. And okay, now we're going to take a little shift. We're going to leave Mondragon for a moment and jump back in time to August. In August, there was a conference here in Berkeley of the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives, and Mayor McLaughlin asked me to attend on her behalf, which I did, and met some really, really interesting people and went to some terrific workshops. This particular photograph shows some of the speakers there. The woman in the center is from an organization called WAGES, Women's Action to Gain Economic Security, based in Oakland. They have, I think, they have a network of cooperatives in Oakland and the South Bay of women who do house cleaning work. And she told me that some of their worker owners in the Oakland co-op actually live in Richmond. So there's a connection there. And then the two women flanking her both work at a grocery store in San Francisco called Other Avenues. Somebody earlier tonight before we started mentioned Other Avenues. It is located in the Sunset District. I was able to visit it. It's a great store. It's got really good, healthy food, produce, mostly organic food, and it's been there for 34 years. It's been very successful, very sustainable. It's small, but it's very successful. The woman on the right has actually been a worker owner there for the last 34 years. And I don't know the gentleman on the left. But in any event, this slide shows some young people who are at that conference in Berkeley. Teenagers from Worcester, Massachusetts, who are part of a youth co-op called Toxic Soil Busters. And they do soil testing and lead remediation. And they partner with a nonprofit of adults that kind of coach them, but they organize all of their work schedules and their works, make their decisions, their organizational decisions themselves, and earn money while they're doing that. And They gave a fabulous presentation at the conference, very lively, very well spoken, and afterwards I asked them if they'd like to visit Richmond, and they said yes, they would. So they came to Richmond for a day, and they visited with Mayor McLaughlin. They visited over at the Rise Center, and then we went up to Eco Village Farm Learning Center, and that's where this picture was taken. Shyam Shabaka was talking to them a little bit about the toxic remediation work that he does as well with youth. And this slide shows, I put this in because another person I met at the Berkeley conference is a person from the United Steelworkers Union who talked a little bit about the agreement that they signed last year with Mondragon to form a collaboration. And this agreement is to work on establishing Mondragon-style cooperatives in the manufacturing sector within the United States and Canada. So far it hasn't really gotten off the ground concretely. They're looking to do some of this in the Pittsburgh area, especially if there's factories where the owner is wanting to retire and doesn't have any family to pass it on to, that then the workers could take it over. Just as a start, they want to look into different models, and this could certainly move to the West Coast in due time. And the next slide, it's a little bit dark, but the person speaking is Ted Howard, whom the mayor mentioned earlier. He's with the Democracy Cooperative at the University of Maryland, and he's also on the board of the Cleveland Foundation. And he spoke about the evergreen cooperatives in Cleveland, which are very exciting development that they have going there. As you can see the slides, to create jobs, generate wealth for residents, and stabilize neighborhoods. They have pulled together a lot of stakeholders in the Cleveland area, including some hospitals, a major university foundation, city government to leverage some HUD funding and a variety of things. And they've started 3 green businesses already, including one industrial size eco-friendly laundry, and another business does solar installation and weatherization. And so we had a great conversation with him. Michelle McGoy of Solar Richmond was there, as the mayor said, and so we're really looking forward to continuing that relationship, bringing more people from Richmond who are interested into the conversation and seeing if some elements of that could be used here. Again, the purpose is to provide jobs for people in low-income communities with high unemployment, which is exactly what they're suffering in Cleveland, exactly like what we have here in Richmond. And then the next slide, we're going back to Mondragon, because this is, again, talking about what are we going to do moving forward, what are our next steps. Mayor McLaughlin had an in-depth conversation with Mikkel about how she can move this forward in Richmond, and one of the results is the presentation, the gathering we have here tonight, to start talking with the community about what is the interest, how can we promote this, how can we bring people together who can work together, and how can we get the resources that are needed. And so they discussed that, and in the next slide they signed the letter of intent and endorsement of all the activities that the mayor intends to pursue, which you have on your handout. And then finally, show of solidarity, going forward. And in the next slide, just to end, this is another quote from Jose Maria Arizmendi Arrieta, which I thought really captured the whole spirit of the Mondragon Cooperatives. It is worthwhile to live and work for something besides earning money and accumulating things for oneself. Community with others, peace, justice, understanding, sensitivity, sisterhood, and brotherhood are things to be sought and found. And to attain them effectively in a world of struggle, it is necessary to think of another way to align the people who work in struggle. And what that reminded me of, just to kind of bring it full circle, I don't know if you can all read it, but you heard me read it to you. What this reminds me is these 2 posters that I put up, the vision of Dr. Martin Luther King's beloved community, which Amara Hicks, who is here with us tonight, she brought that vision to us, and we've been using it at many of our Richmond events, because we see this as something that really exists here in Richmond, and we're just trying to enable it to blossom forth and really take over the city. And I'll just read this briefly, if you can't see it in the back. Dr. King's beloved community is a global vision in which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. In the beloved community, poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice will be replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood. In the beloved community, international disputes will be resolved by peaceful conflict resolution and reconciliation of adversaries instead of military power. Love and trust will triumph over fear and hatred. Peace and justice will prevail over war and military conflict. So with that, that's the end of this presentation. We'll go to one more slide, which will be useful when we start our discussion. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Mayor McLaughlin, who will guide us through some Q&A and some discussion.
So much, Marilyn. As